Well, the fantasy baseball season is over. The real playoffs for baseball has started, but that means it's time to look back at 2016 and look ahead to 2017. I'll be continuing my baseball coverage for fantasy all throughout the off season. Obviously, not gonna be a ton of videos a week because it's the off season, but I plan on going through talking about early season sleepers and stuff, or early people I think will be busts, looking at teams, some rookies that could be making some impacts next year. But first, it's time to look back at the 2016 season, and the first place to start is my sleepers from last season, and see how they did. Now, we have three classifications. It's a bust, which means they were never relevant at all during the 2016 fantasy season. Push means they were relevant at times, but other times you found them on the waiver wire. And then a win, it's someone who significantly contributed to your team for the full length, almost for the full length of the 2016 season. Obviously, with some prospect rookie things that full season you didn't get from them, but they did help you and contribute to your team. So obviously, one of the big guys I pushed for last year was Matt Moore. He was one of my favorite sleepers going into 2016 because of that really hot finish that he had with the Rays in 2015. He didn't break out like I thought he might, but he gave us enough this season so that I'm not totally off him next season. I mean, he'll probably be I'm not as excited for him, but he still has shown that potential for why I was excited with him. The walk rate was the biggest problem. It went from 2.8 batters per 9 innings to 5. That's a big difference, and one of the most frustrating things to watch him pitch this year was his lack of control, but he had some really good games too. I like him with the Giants, a full season next year with the Giants. I think he'll be better than this year. And I think he'll gain some of that control back just because of how much he lost it. He's already got a full season under his belt now after all the injuries. So I'm going to be looking for him next season too. Justin Bour, injured most of the year. He played 87 games, 15 home runs. I mean, he really cut his K rate down and his walk rate went up. So I'd like to see that improvements from him. He improved his OPS by 50 points this season when he played, but he can't be a win just because of the injury. Daniel Norris is another guy that got hampered by injury. He largely did what I thought he would. The whip was too high. I thought it'd be a little bit lower. But as long as he's healthy next year, I still like him as one of the back-end rotation guy, last pick kind of things. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully we'll see a full season out of him next year. So the first bust on the list was Orlando Arcia. I thought he would be starting shortstop for Milwaukee relatively early in the 2016 season, but VR's rise there doomed this pick from the start. He was called up too late, and he didn't produce when he was called up. So I'm not down on his long-term potential, but obviously he didn't do anything this year for your team. So now we have our first win, and that's Jared Eckhoff. He did have some up and down points, but he was largely consistent through the season. The K rate wasn't as high as I thought it would be. I mean, 159 strikeouts and 191 innings is not exactly what I foresaw. I was hoping he'd at least be a 9K per 9 inning guy. But the whip was really low, and the ERA was manageable, and he did get enough wins on a pretty bad Phillies team. So I liked what he did. He was a consistent contributor. Urena Suarez did exactly what I thought he would do this season, but he can't be a win just because of how much shortstop just exploded this season with all the young players like Aledmus Diaz, Lindor, Seager. Shortstop was just such a deep position this year that Suarez, after his hot April, was relatively on the waiver wires on like 12-team leagues because he gave you power. He was a hot, cold guy. Think Justin Upton, but at shortstop kind of thing. So he's kind of a push. He helped you early in the season, but he largely fell off the map later on. Drew Smyly was a bust this season. I mean, he was useful at some points this year, but he was just so bad for so long that he has to be labeled a bust. He had almost a 5 ERA. The whip was manageable, the Ks were nice, but Smyly just did not do well over a full season. He's got a lot of trust to regain next year. Devon Travis is a win. Obviously, you drafted him knowing he had that injury and that he would be off for a while going into the season, so that was kind of factored into the draft pick. But he had a 299 average, 10 home runs, 49 RBIs in a great Blue Jays lineup, and he proved that last year was not a fluke. So I'm really excited for him to play a full season next year and just to see what the stats will be. Max Kepler is a win, and a win in a weird sense. I thought he would be an average guy that would give you a good average and a decent amount of runs and RBIs, but he had that power explosion when he got called up, and I'm really excited for his potential. He was almost universally undrafted. He's one of the guys you plucked up off the waiver wire mid-season, but he did contribute to your fantasy team, especially in Roto with that little bit of power if you had him in your lineup then. And he was a great average hitter in the minors, so I look for that average to rise. I don't necessarily buy that he has this much power, but he's definitely another interesting guy for the 2017 season. Dalton Pompey, absolute whiff on him. I thought maybe if he could hit, and be in that great Blue Jays lineup, he'd get the stolen bases and the runs. But no, he played 6 games with a 0.000 average. There's not much else to say about him. He's off the radar at all now, just a plain bust. Steven Matz was a win. Obviously, he had some injury, along with most of the Mets pitchers this season. But he pitched at an ace level when he was healthy. The strikeouts were there. The whip was great. So he did provide value for where he was drafted. Stephen Piscotty was a win also where he was drafted. And if it wasn't for his late August-September fade, I feel like people would be way more excited for him. He maintained that 300 average for most of the season until that late season slump. But 22 home runs, 83 RBIs, with a 274 average. Can't really complain about that. I think that's around where his power is going to be for his career. He's a 20 to 25 homer guy, but I think he can be a 300 hitter in the majors. So I think that average will rise next season, and I'm excited to draft him. Number 13 is Jung Ho Gong, which would have been a bust if it wasn't for his late season surge, which pushed him up to a push. The homers were there. He had 20 home runs, 59 RBIs. Obviously, like Travis, he was injured to start the season. Then the Pirates didn't play him, and he just wasn't producing when he was playing. But then that late season surge hit, and we saw that he is this power hitter. I still don't exactly know what I think about him, but a healthy 2017 will tell us a lot more about Kang. 14 is Severino, another whiff there. It was a disaster of a season for him. He was in a starter role for some of it, a reliever role in other parts, but he was just never fantasy relevant at all. Still got promise, but we're going to need to see a lot for him. Maybe a good 2017 spring training, but right now I'm not excited about him. And then the last one, we'll finish off with a win, and that's JT Realmuto. Catcher was pretty bad this season, Gary Sanchez notwithstanding. But Realmuto produced enough for a catcher with the 305 average, 11 home runs, 12 stolen bases, Not eye-popping stats, but good for a catcher. He only had one more home run than 2015, but he did hit 10 more doubles, so he was showing a little bit more gap power. And I like, stolen bases, not a ton, but at the catcher position, 12 is a lot. So that's the review of the 2016 sleepers. I'm going to start composing an early list of what I think could be 2017 sleepers, but obviously you never know until the draft. So thanks for watching, and look out for more videos in the future.